Fantastic. All right, welcome this afternoon to our Board of County Commissioners meeting. All three commissioners are here to participate, and we have an agenda before us. And as we'll normally start with a prayer, a thought, or a reading, and also the Pledge of Allegiance. And we look to the audience if anybody is willing to volunteer. I've got a pledge already. I feel like an auctioneer when I'm up here doing this. Anybody got a prayer, reading, or a thought that they would like to participate with us? Oh, okay, Ben, come on up.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful to be gathered this day in this commission chambers to be able to meet the needs and serve the people of Utah County. We're grateful for the good men and women who serve so effectively and with such dedication in this area, and we pray that we might have thy spirit with us as we discuss the issues of the county today, that we'll be able to have civil and productive conversations, and that we'll be able to understand one another and to be able to accomplish the things that would have us do and that will be of value to the people here in Utah County. And we pray for these blessings in the name of our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. And thank you for participating with us in that. Let's see, before we get started, Nick, Lance, can you come on up? We want to talk about some boilers. Come on up. I'm just kidding. Come on up anyway. You're the employee of the month. I was told that you were told that you're going to talk about boilers. But we're going to talk about you.
Okay.
Let me read this. All right.
The home, and then you just times it by the tax rate and then times it by 0.55.
Let's see. Hang on one second. That was not me. We'll get a few things here on mute. Okay. Nick Lance. I can't, this was submitted on your behalf, and that's how you get picked.
Okay.
I can't think of a county employee more deserving of the Employee of the Month recognition than Nick Lance with Public Works. Nick has been the County Children's Justice Center, CJC, building maintenance specialist since he started his county employment. The CJC facility has been in tip-top shape since he has took over the responsibility of maintaining our building. Nick's responds quickly to our work orders and has an amazing skill set, and to be able to quickly fix all the issues this old house throws his way. He is always prompt and professional while working on our building. We serve children and families who are experiencing a crisis and chaos that comes with the disclosure of significant abuse, and Nick is conscientious of that when there are clients in the building. Once, we had a family inquire about Nick and what job he had at the center. The family commented that when they were walking in the building, he had held the door open and greeted them as they entered the center. They generally appreciated his warm welcome. That meant a lot to them as they were nervous coming to the center for their appointment that day. In March of 2020, at the start of COVID craziness, we started a flooring replacement project on the center. Our carpet/flooring was 20 plus years old and very much needed looked at. As the person over our building, Nick was responsible for playing musical office furniture, sometimes twice a day, every day for nearly 4 weeks while the flooring was being replaced. He would arrive early in the morning, sometimes with additional help, oftentimes by himself, with only a hand truck to move all the office furniture from the offices and flooring. The flooring would be worked on, only to return it either later in the day or earlier the next in its original spot. Not just office furniture, this includes appliances, toilets, large storage shelves, etc. This work was tedious. You don't realize how much furniture is in your office until you must empty it out. Cramped, heavy, awkward, and quite frankly, never ending. Nick showed up every morning, upbeat, positive, and never had a word of complaint. He took great care in moving all the items and remembering where they needed to be returned to. He worked so incredibly hard in this building effort every day for 4+ weeks and still had to tackle his multitude of other important responsibilities. The entire floor project would have been a true logistical nightmare if it wasn't for Nick. His hard work, positive attitude, and attention to detail is reflected in how great the CJC looks. He does stellar work, and he is literally wouldn't have this amazing building without him working hard to keep it that way. For this reason and so many more, we would list Nick Lance as deserving the Employee of the Month award. So thank you. Any comments? Any thoughts?
I don't think I could be able to do all the work without all the help from public work employees. So these guys need a round of applause as well.
There you go. We'll do that. Okay, we've got some stuff for you.
Right? All right. Thank you.
You can all stay if you'd like for more fun. All right. That's fantastic. We will now go through the process of building our agenda. As you see on our agenda, there is a consent agenda that is highlighted and bolded, and there's nothing underneath it. And then there's our regular agenda that is bolded and underlined. I shouldn't have said highlighted. It was bolded and underlined for both those. And there's a whole bunch of things underneath the regular agenda. We're going to go through a process of moving things from our regular agenda to a consent agenda. That means that if we move it to a consent agenda, all three commissioners agree, ratify, approve, or whatever the language is on the agenda, and it'll be left on the agenda as being agreed to. And so with that, let's start with 1 through 10. Are there any items that are on our published regular agenda that need to be taken off? Left on our regular agenda, or can we move it to consent? Okay, I don't see any on there. I didn't have any as well, so 1 through 10 we'll move to consent. Items 11 through 20. I was wondering if we should continue item number 11. I didn't see an agreement on there. I was going through the agenda. And then also number 19, we could move that to consent, in my opinion, if we consented that it was approved.
Commissioner Lee, this is Robert Moore. And number 19 is the emergency rent assistance agreement. We were having some difficulties with the agenda system yesterday, so I'm not sure if it got on or not as a backup.
So what
But I think
number-
there's some that's number 11 on regular agenda, is the emergency rent assistance program. That's set to start on Monday
is this the,
with the state.
number 11 is to approve and authorize the signing of a revenue agreement between Department of Workforce Services and Utah County? Is that the one
Correct.
you're talking about? Okay.
Correct. Yes.
Would you email that to us and maybe we can just table that? And then we can maybe pick it up.
we could do that.
Okay, that'd be great. Table that to
Yep, we
us.
could do that.
We can take a look at it, if that's all right to
That
consent
won't,
for
that
table.
won't interfere starting this Monday then?
Yeah. Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Any others? Okay, seeing none on that, then we'll move to 21 through 28, and I recognize that this may be a little different than we've done in the past. But 21 through 28, there is number 23 also says approve or deny, and I wouldn't mind if we left that on as approve on consent, as long as we designate that that is approve.
Same thing for number 19. It's approve or deny.
Yeah, we did that one. And then if we could leave it on consent, this is a little deviation from what we've done in the past on 25 through 28. If we can leave it on consent, that we would approve and set a date, time, and location for a closed meeting to discuss the character professional confidence. That date, time, and location would be today at this location following the completion of this meeting. And then 26, 27, and 28 to strike, if that's agreed upon.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so that takes care of our agenda, so I'll go back then and clarify that we are tabling agenda item number 11. That we have consented specifically to approve number 19 and number 23. And that we have set the date, time, and location for number 25, and then we struck 26, 27, and 28.
Can make a motion that we approve as outlined.
Okay, so we have those on consent. So those will be agreed to, so all those have been moved to our consent agenda, and they'll be agreed to. That means that all three commissioners agree to that, which makes it for a really short, regular agenda for us. And is there any comments to what we've done so far? We've moved practically the whole agenda to a consent agenda, meaning that everything's been agreed to or ratified. Any online? Okay. Okay, with that then, we will move to our work session. And our first work session item is to discuss and amending and updating the operation disclosure statement, operating plan, and site plan for the North County Equestrian Park. And maybe just to start this off, as we've gone through a process of understanding what the park has and what the park is doing. There's a lot of questions that came up, and at some point in time, there was a lot of misconceptions of what the park, especially on the operational side, was to do and not to do. And so as those questions came up, there was, conversations with the Planning Commission and Public Works and others. And so we thought it would be important to talk about amending and updating the operations plan, but I think probably first and foremost is kind of understanding where we are at and where we have come from to get to this point. Oh, and maybe on a work session, just for informational purposes, we'll have some presentations on that. This is a work session. It'll be open for public. So we'll go through a presentation process talking about, the history, where we're at, what we have in place, maybe some of the things that we see that need to be adjusted as well. And then we'll open up for public comment to also talk about it. It's not really comment, it's more of, again, a work session.
Thank you, Commissioner. This is Bryce Armstrong, Community Development Staff. As Commissioner Lee alluded to, we've had some questions about kind of the history of the park and as it relates to the approvals and what those approvals were conditioned with. And so what we thought we'd start out with is Glenn Tanner from our Associate Director of Public Works will kind of give you some history of the property. And then I will come back and kind of touch on the approvals of the facility and how those relate to its current status. And I guess we can go to that point. So I'll let Glenn give you a little history of specifically on the property.
Glenn Tanner, Associate Public Works Director. And I'm just going to kind of give a brief history. I sent you some stuff earlier today. Hopefully you've had a chance to read that and found that useful.
Found it fascinating.
Yeah. But there's a map up for you on the screen for your reference. And like I said, I'm going to read through this paragraph I've kind of prepared to kind of give a brief history of the park. The North County Equestrian Park is located on a small portion of the unincorporated land in northern part of Utah County. In the north side of the park abuts Highland City. The southeast and east portion of the park abuts American Fork City. And the southwest west portion of the park abuts Lehigh City. And then there's a little stem that's attached that's still unincorporated. Utah County purchased a portion of the park in 1946, or the property, and the remainder of it was bought in 1962. The property was known as the Bateman Pit and was used by Utah County as a sand and gravel operation for some time. In the mid-1990s, Utah County considered selling the property. However, a request was made by the cities abutting the property to construct an equestrian youth park. A cooperative agreement was entered into by the 3 cities in the counties in 1993 to begin the construction of the park. The park is comprised of approximately 37 acres, of which 14 acres has been developed. The majority of the park improvements occurred between 1999 and 2000, of which were funded through grants and some funds received from those adjoining cities. Those improvements include 4 large pavilions, 2 children playgrounds, a large grass area, a restroom, an indoor riding arena, an outdoor riding arena with sound system and announcer stand, holding pens, loading chutes, riding paths, walking paths, and some open equestrian riding areas. As these improvements occurred, it shows that at some time there was a equestrian operating committee formed that included members from Public Works, the Utah County Attorney's staff, and various representatives from Highland, Lehigh, and American Fork cities. It looks like what they looked at doing was how to operate the park, and they looked at similar operations of other equestrian facilities such as Spanish Fork, Grantsville, and South Jordan to come up with their operating plan at that time.
And when was that organized?
That looks like it was organized in around 2003 is when the records or the minutes for those meetings were found and referenced. So we have some minutes.
When was it dissolved, or when was it?
I don't know if it ever really dissolved or if it just kind of went silent. So it doesn't really give a lot of information. That's just from the files.
Okay.
But it does look like that there was a committee that was formed at one time based on the minutes that we found. And then it looks like due to the economic downturn in 2008, funding kind of slowed down, and really no major improvements took place from about 2008 to current. It's more been maintenance and operation for the facility to current time. And then in 2009, we were asked to get an appraisal of the property, which Public Works did receive and was turned over to the attorney's office and the commissioners. And then in late 2020, the commission asked us to put together an RFP for parties to submit a concept plan of what they might see could be used, the property could be used for the benefit of the public or other interested parties. And that leads us to why we're here today. So.
Thank you, Glenn.
Bryce Armstrong, Community Development Staff again. Don't be too muffled here. So there are a couple land uses that kind of play into this specific facility. The Utah County Land Use Ordinance designates what's defined as a public park. And so this park, we call it the North County Equestrian Park. It's first and foremost, it's a public park. The current ordinance lists a public park as a permitted use subject to meeting certain conditions or requirements that are spelled out in the ordinance, including the submittal of a site plan and an operations disclosure statement that includes an operations plan. There's also what's termed a public park facility, which is a recreational type use located within a public park. Prior to 2008, the Utah County Land Use Ordinance required those type of uses or facilities to be approved through the conditional use process. And so specifically the equestrian arena was subject to that conditional use process, and it went through that process beginning in 2001. And I'll run through that real quick. Currently, or after 2008, or in 2008, the Utah County Land Use Ordinance was amended to include a public park facility as a permitted use, meaning it could be approved through an administrative process showing that it meets the requirements of the ordinance, which includes a site plan and an operations plan, similar to previously. It just did not require to go through the conditional use process after 2008. So let me run through some of the approvals associated with specifically the equestrian public park facility element of this public park. In 2001, there was a conditional use that was approved for a public park facility, the equestrian facility component, subject to the conditions of that the annual review of the permit be determined or be conducted until a review was no longer needed, a final operation plan submitted, trees, identified some trees need to be planted as a buffer, and then also they had some operation times that were included specifically. So those were included in the operation plan. I think I submitted a copy of that operation plan that was submitted at that time. This meeting in 2001 had a condition or an addition to those that allowed the operation of the arena to go till 11 o'clock on Friday and Saturday evenings. And so that was included as part of the conditions of the original approval. Okay, 2002, the matter came back to the Planning Commission to amend the previous facility approval, conditional use, to include downlighting for maintenance purposes, and that was subject to certain conditions, that it was only to be used for cleanup of the arena after an event, and that there were a certain, the poles could only be 20 feet with 150 watt bulbs. And so this was just to amend the original approval of the facility to allow security lighting and cleanup lighting after it got dark, and specified the nature of that lighting. I should note that in 1998, there was there was an application sent to the Board of Adjustment to allow a lighted arena, an outdoor lighted arena, which is a conditional use. And so that was not approved, that was denied. And so there is no approval of the outdoor arena for lighted events. So that's kind of just a side note there. And then
Under the conditional use permit status, but not the park permitted use status.
correct. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it was, that would have been a different type of approval needed. It still, can be used as an outdoor arena that's unlighted as part of the park, so. And then 2004, the Utah County engineer kind of went through and amended all of their site plans for all their parks throughout the county, including Equestrian Park, North County Equestrian Park. And all that did was amend the site plan. And from the minutes, it said that there were no major changes to existing uses or structures in each park, and that the amended site plan were just to provide a more accurate inventory of structures and uses. So no real significant changes there. And then in December 2004, which because of a noticing issue was reheard in May of 2005, so it was the same matter, the public park facility site plan was amended again through the conditional use process to include 18 light poles along the entrance road in the pavilion areas and 2 taller light poles on the north end of the parking lot facing south, subject to the following conditions. The lights are for the safety of the park users in the evening hours. Lights will be reflected downward, not outward or upward. Limited it to 18 light standards. And then lights will be turned off after regular hours of park operation.
So is that up to 18? I don't know. Do we have that many light poles out
Yes,
there?
that included up to 18. So I don't know if we
Do we
build
have
them all.
that many? Oh, along the entrance road?
So there has been no further action as far as additional approvals of the facility since that 2005 meeting. Again, in 2008, the ordinance was amended to allow a public park facility to be included in a public park through just an administrative process of having a site plan and a operation plan. And so the site plan that was approved in 2004 that's been included is back up to this. And the operation plan, the original operation plan with those amendments through those later conditions or conditional uses are kind of what governs the current use of the property relative to those specific equestrian park uses. Again, it's a public park. We define a public park. It's quite general in nature. And so that contemplates a number of different type of park uses that may be independent of the park, of the land, of the equestrian park facility. And I think the plan of operation kind of alludes to that. From staff's perspective, I think it may be helpful, and I think that's kind of the nature of why we're on here today, is to kind of take a look at that existing operation plan and existing site plan and see if it's working and if we need to make any changes on the intended use of the park, and just kind of maybe throw that out and see what discussion we have on that.
So for the commission, as I understand it from talking with you, because it's in the park facility, we would need a site plan. I mean, it can be amended and changed by the commission, at any time, basically to whatever the operations and maintenance need to be done on that.
Correct. There are some general guidelines in the ordinance that identify some standards that need to be met, and I think those are pretty general. And so, but yeah, you're right. Those that can be amended, and that process would be kind of what we contemplate today. Today wouldn't happen, but we would, if we want to do that, then we put it on as an action item, or if the commissioners want to direct the Public Works, the operator of the park, in this case, Utah County Public Works Department, to make those changes to the existing operation plan specifically in the site plan.
Okay.
I guess I'll turn it over to Richard to see if he has anything to add.
Richard Nelson, Public Works. I'm just going to talk a little bit about what the current operations are. Bryce and Glenn have given you a pretty good history of how the park came to be and what it is. Just for a real brief look here, what we have, our operating hours are currently 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Saturday. The park is closed on Sundays and holidays. Each day we have someone that goes out and opens the gate in the morning, someone goes out at night and closes the gate, turns off the lights in the arena. On Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and when we have specific reservations, we go out and work the indoor arena, work the ground in it. We do that with the equipment we have out there. We also water the arena, try to make the best riding conditions possible with what we have out there so that it's good for the riders. We also clean the restrooms and and take care of the park in general on those, that Monday, Wednesday, and Friday as well. As we have time that allows, and this is more, I think, Cade, correct me if I'm wrong, more spring and fall. We work the outdoor arena. In the summertime, it becomes, pretty much unworkable, I believe. Yep. So that's one of the things that we do there. We do have garbage pickup on the facility. We do take time and clean the manure off the paved parking area as our crews are out there. We do have reservations that are available for the arena. We post those as they come in so that users can see those as they come into the site. They know, hopefully, we try to get them up a few days ahead of time so they know that there's something going on, Friday afternoon or whatever it may be. We have the grassy areas down around the pavilions where we have landscape maintenance that happens during the summer months. That includes the mowing of the grass, the weeding, spraying as needed. That happens on a weekly basis. One of the things we do in all of our parks is anywhere we have picnic tables, we do pressure wash those tables once a week. They're aluminum tables, so we go in and try to keep them clean so they're desirable for folks to come and use them and they're not messed up. They do that every week. And then also just their general maintenance, aerating, fertilizing, snow plowing as needed happens throughout the park. I think Kate sent you a list that shows the park rules. I think that was in an email yesterday, I believe. Talks about what can and cannot happen in the facility. That goes out with the passes when those are acquired. And one of the things that we kind of looked at as we'd gone down through here on the fees, that's actually in the operating plan that Bryce had talked about. As we've talked amongst staff, we think that's probably something as we amend this, assuming that we want to pull that out and just have it be part of our fee schedule rather than in that more formal type document, because that would change from time to time. And then I guess the other thing that we'd look at is, back on the outdoor arena, one of the things there is it does close at dark because we don't have lighted events out there. Bryce talked about the conditional use permits on the lighting. There are 4 lights around that outdoor arena, but they are just for maintenance and cleanup. They're not there for event lighting. They're not made for that. They're much too small of a candle power for that sort of a thing. So that outdoor arena does close at dark. So, Kate, anything I've forgotten on the operations? Okay. Any questions you have for us?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
So now, as we're looking at, and like Richard, alluded to, possibly amending this and amending this plan for use from the public. I know there's a couple here that would probably like to talk about some of their ideas of what they think should be put into that plan, and so it's open for discussion. And we'll also go online if there's any online, but we'll start with the in the room first. Just make sure and state your name.
I am Mary Lee Tanner.
I'm Jemima Street.
So basically, we have come in front of commissioners and written letters, and basically it's come down to that they've said that Utah County is not in the business of running an equestrian center. That's why you have Spanish Fork and how it's run with the city, and then you have a manager over it. As well as they have tried to do, the equestrian center has a lot of needs that have not been addressed. And we're just people who use the facility, see that this facility needs more. It needs more help, and we are willing, as a horse community, to come in and help. We just need the ability to help, I guess is the best way to put it. Once that the county equestrian center, it looks like it had a committee, we need a committee again to help address the needs. We did a change.com over a year ago about when you heard the county go, the equestrian center was going to go up for sale. We had 5,000, hundreds of signatures and hundreds of comments that the equestrian center footing needs to be changed and addressed. And that the lighting, there's a long, long list that we can go through of the things that need to be addressed with the county. And to see that, just listening to the history of it, not much has changed to the equestrian center in the last 17 years. And if you were to look at what Spanish Fork has asked for, I can bet you that they get a whole lot more done to their facility. And because of that, it's made it so that the North County has been neglected in the nicest way. Like, the county does a beautiful job of keeping the bottom part done. They just don't know what to do with the arena, and we would love to help with that.
Yeah, and I think they are doing their best with the tools that they have, but part of that is they're not given the tools that they need to actually maintain the property. And so that's something that we really want to help address and help get fixed.
And I'm talking about, we already have donations in hand to buy the right equipment. We are willing to work with the county and help. The arena can't get dragged 3 days a week. It needs to get dragged every day of the week. The outdoor arena, unfortunately, does not get worked. And so it's unusable. I mean, there's most of it's unusable. It would be rented out. It can't be rented out for the rules that they have right now. For it cannot exchange money on property. So you can't run a buckaroo rodeo, even though it does.
Yes.
There's a lot of inconsistencies. There's a lot of rules that are not followed. There's a lot of scary things that goes on there, and there's no liability to be signed. And it's in the corner, so no one can see it. It's really just, we're just trying to help make this facility what it could be, which means that what Spanish Fork is in the south end of the valley, the North County could be the jewel of the north end of the valley.
Can I stop you, since this is a
Yes.
work session, and clear something up? So when we say it cannot exchange money, I think we had this conversation, and I think I know where this is coming from, but I would like Richard to kind of express where we see that and where that's at.
I think that comes from a statement in the operations plan that was submitted by the county back in, Bryce, was it 2003? 2001, where it says in that operations plan that no concessions would happen at the site. And so that's where the understanding has come from, that we can't have paid events based on that operations plan. So that was what our understanding is.
So yeah, the operation, this is Bryce again, Armstrong. The operation plan can always probably be more strict as per the operator than the ordinance. Let me read you what the ordinance, how the ordinance addresses that particular question. Under standards for public parks and public park facilities, it says the primary purpose of the park, again, this is the park first with a facility, including the equestrian facilities within that park. So the primary purpose of the park shall be for the beautification of the area and the recreation and edification of the public, not for private use of public land. User fees and concessions are not prohibited by this requirement. So that would contemplate that if there needs to be some type of fee for
We have
use.
user fees, though.
Anyway, that's just what the ordinance says, and so.
So so what he's saying is that it's not prohibited. Anyway, so I think that's an area that probably we should address.
Sure.
I
Yeah,
just
it is.
I wanted to identify areas
And
of
I'm
address.
a little confused, because how does Spanish Fork run? Because no equestrian center can run, how does Spanish Fork they rent theirs out all the time?
That's a city park, a city facility versus a county facility. So they're under a whole different set of rules than what this one is. So this is under the county rules and what Mr. Armstrong's described. Spanish Fork is not subject to any of that because they're inside the city
So, and
limits.
I guess that's what we want to come and talk about is if in order for this in order for this facility to function, it needs to function like South Jordan and Spanish Fork. Otherwise, it's gonna be dilapidated and not used because it can't function like it needs to.
So that should be one area. I just want to identify that. That is one area that we should consider and look at.
You had talked about that you made up the rules after Spanish Fork and South Jordan, except everything they just said cannot be done. None of those facilities run that way.
Yeah.
So I don't understand, that's where we're talking about, is that everything at North County says you can't do this, but that's exactly how all those other facilities are run. So we just would like to make North County the ability to function like it needs to.
We'll address that one.
So we don't know where you want us to go, because we have lists and
What are
rules
some
and-
of, again, I think the purpose of this work session is to talk about areas as we bring up the not the maintenance, but the operational facility itself. And we're gonna consider, I'm listing them. One, you talk about a committee, that's something, proper tools, for maintenance. And I've got third, talking about the money exchange in that area. So those, what are some other ideas that you think need to be, addressed that we can, we're not gonna debate them and discuss them and
Okay.
vote on them today, but they're just ideas.
So, something that has happened recently within the last week is that we have a huge problem with dogs off leash. You cannot mix dogs and horses with dogs off leash. It's just not safe. We had one gal that was bucked off from her horse several months ago. And I've had multiple incidences where a dog was off of leash. The dog actually came after me. My horse bolted, and it could have ended very seriously. Just this past week, I also had another encounter with some people with multiple dogs off leash. I had to call the county sheriffs, and I'm sorry that I call them all the time for it, but it's a major issue. We also had last week a couple kids ripping around on four-wheelers in the sand, and there used to be signs. There used to be signs there were no motor vehicles. There used to be a big sign of the rules right as you drive in the gate, and for some reason, in the last probably 6 months, those signs got taken down. I don't know why, but it's really frustrating when you go to tell someone like, hey, you need to put your dog on a leash. This is a horse park, not a dog park. I can't take my horse to a dog park and go ride. It's just doesn't work. And we are fully aware that it is a public park and people need to have access to it, and we are willing to concede that dogs are going to be there, but it has to be done safely. Dogs have to be on leashes, and it has to be posted, because otherwise we have nothing to fall back on. And it is so dangerous. I mean, if you're out on the trails and a dog pops out at you, your horse jukes or spooks, you're dumped. And it's not fun. It doesn't tickle. And it can be very, very dangerous. So I would love to see signs posted immediately, because you also probably have about only 40% of people that use that facility that actually sign the liability form. So that is a huge, huge liability to the county.
Yeah, I got two things out of that to address. Look at dogs, proper use there in the park, and signs.
And really also just move the, make a sign and waivers more accessible to people so they can find it. So right now it's in the back corner where no one knows where it is unless
Okay.
you're familiar with the facility.
Yeah,
Waivers.
I literally had somebody this morning while I was there riding come in and say, hey, like, how does this work? Where there's nothing on the door, there's nothing to point people to the back corner. And I said, you see that back beam over there? It's hiding behind that back beam. And then how to explain to them that there was a liability form they also needed to sign and fill out, and include that in their form where they actually pay the fees. So just not having it up front and center, or not having any information anywhere of where to actually pay, it just goes to that same thing that you don't have people signing a liability form.
Well,
And that's for the equestrian use in the facility.
yes.
Yes.
And then also just enforcing rules that are given to the facility, just in the safety rules, like the dogs on leash, making people check passes, liability is formed, and we have a list of rules that we would like, and this for a different day, just, like under 18 probably should be wearing a helmet at the facility. Just, to some basic things that go through it. We have a list that we can leave with you guys if you want to, so we're not taking too much time, or we can read it. I don't know what you'd like, but.
Maybe if you would just bullet point it.
So we have no dogs allowed in or around the arenas, must be on a leash at all times. No more than 2 horses lunging and doing groundwork in the arena. It's actually supposed to be 3. Cones, trap poles, barrels, jumps, any equipment must be put away after use and not interfere with other riders. Please clean up after your horse, manure, horsehair, and trash. And then there is a discrepancy on other facilities allowed a trainer to come in and teach. That is something that probably needs to be addressed, because if the the equestrian center is gonna be allowed for the community. They probably need to make concessions. And I've talked to Spanish Fork and South Jordan, and they do allow people to teach one lesson, just not group lessons. So that's something to be discussed. Be curious, no rough riding. If your horse is out of control or acting out, please take them in the round corral. No foot traffic in the arena unless you're doing groundwork. Horses must be loaded and out of the gate by 10 p.m. 18 and under, a helmet is required when riding. No alcohol and drugs allowed on the park. No motor vehicle or ATV allowed on trails, which that one's always been there, but that sign is gone.
Yeah, the signs are gone.
So, and really, we want to have those right at the front door as you come in so that people, and then have a box there so they can sign a liability. Really just trying to make the facility function like it should. Most arenas have someone who manages it, and we are willing as a horse community to come in and say, we will help you manage this on our own time and money, and I feel like this has been a part-time job for us right now. But as a horse community, we want to step up and help. And one of the things we need is that ground fixed, and I already have a barn that says that they will donate the right dragger so that we can actually have the proper footing, and we have a $10,000 donation that we would like to give to help fix the footing. We want, Jemima already helps open and shut your gates for you. She goes, and she's not a volunteer, she's not getting paid for this. We are totally willing and happy to step up to the plate on this. We need the ability to help.
Okay. I've got a list, and I'd love to have that list, because I couldn't write as fast as you were speaking on that.
Well,
And you don't mind this being a public document, right?
please do. I'm
Okay.
not,
Great.
One thing too that I would just like to talk about really quickly is that if there is the ability to host events, I understand that there's not able to do night events in the outdoor arena. But I have talked to 4 different organizations that run jackpot barrel racing and also ropings, and all of them are dying for another facility. Spanish Fork has a year wait to get an event scheduled. So they are dying to have another facility that they can rent out for either a partial day or full day, which is just easy money for the county. I mean, if you allow these events to take place, you're helping to sustain we could make the equestrian center net neutral. Yeah.
That's all we need is that park to help. We just need the park. Since 2003 that I wrote, it's really no substantial things have been happening. We need turnover. We need things. The doors don't open and shut. It doesn't lock. It's difficult right now.
Yeah.
So
Right now, there's a gate that closes the park, but if you look on the map, there's a county access road. You're literally only locking out the horse trailers, the people that pay to use the facility. So where the water holding is, that road right there is a county access road. Cars drive in that all the time. I've been locked out of the park, showing up, and I can't get in. And I see cars in there that have just driven up that access road. And then when you have doors on the actual indoor barn that do not close and do not lock, you're opening it up for vandalism, but you're locking out the people that are the least likely to vandalize or misuse the facility, because we're the ones that are actually paying to use the facility, and those that just come and walk their dog or play golf, because there's a guy that golfs there every morning, they're able to access it at all times, regardless of if the park's closed or not.
So basically, we just would love to come and say, help us help you make this facility something that could be really fantastic for the county.
Okay.
And we're happy to help with the county or work with the city, whatever way it needs to be to make this functional. And we recognize that the county is not in the business of running the equestrian center. But I feel like somehow a committee got dissolved, and we just need to make it happen again.
Resolve it.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. There's a whole bunch of lists for consideration as we work down through it. Richard, looks like you. Okay.
Maybe just a couple of clarifications and kind of look at here. I know that there's a process for volunteering. I know Jemima's already been through that process, and thank you. I think, Mary Lee, you probably also were on that. I don't know, I don't know we've been all the way through the process with yours yet, but it's in the works. So we do have to have that process for volunteers to be on the site. Talking with the attorney's office, there's actually a state statute that Rob Moore had pointed out to us. I couldn't quote it to you, but Rob I believe he'd shared that with the commission as well on what that state statute is. It's so that the volunteers are covered under our workers' comp as they're there, so if they do have an incident. Couple of things they mentioned the sign. We do have new signs that are being made for all of the parks that update the rules and phone numbers, things like that. I don't know if we actually physically have the new sign, okay? So we physically have it in our possession, it just hasn't been installed yet, that has all those park rules on it. One of the rules is that there's no dogs allowed in the park. So, that, again, it gets to be kind of an enforcement issue, and don't feel bad about calling the sheriff's office. Sheriff, thank you.
Sorry,
but that, honestly, that's how we're able to take care of that, is by letting law enforcement know and have them help us as they can. Maybe just one clarification there. Realize that if they get a call on somebody doing something dumb in the park, but they have an emergency somewhere else, the park's gonna be low on the priority. So, okay. They talked about having events at Spanish Fork, like Spanish Fork, and having the park be net neutral. If you are aware of what the cost is at Spanish Fork, commissioners, you sit on a committee with Spanish Fork, and the county helps fund that. Spanish Fork is not net neutral. It's subsidized substantially throughout the year. There's a lot bigger budget at Spanish Fork than we have for equestrian, or North County Equestrian Park. They also have 4 full-time employees for the facility at Spanish Fork. So it is a different operation than what we typically do. We can certainly go there, but there is a cost that's associated with it. So I think as we look into that, we need to kind of look at all those different aspects. Probably be wise to have a conversation with somebody like a Nick Hanks at Spanish Fork that's currently running that type of an operation, and make sure that our eyes are open and we're going into this with as much knowledge as we can before we change the operation. So that's all I've got. Thanks.
One more thing. We have been in contact with Wasatch, what is it? Yeah, Wasatch County, which is the Heber one, and the Spanish Fork one, and the South Jordan one. We are a much smaller operation than what Spanish Fork runs. They have 4 arenas, 3 indoor arenas, 2 huge outdoor.
Two indoor arenas, 1 outdoor. South Jordan has 4 arenas that are outdoor, 1 indoor, 1 covered, racetrack.
Yeah, we're a much smaller entity, but we could make it so that it could be rented out and helped. And as equestrians in the community, like I said, there's a lot of people willing to step up and help this happen. So if we could get the footing changed, like now, like we could get the footing changed, I'm telling you, this arena it is going to be utilized a lot more than it has been before, because it looks like it's not being utilized, but mainly it's because it just needs it needs some love and some attention. But we have been in contact with all of them, and as the equestrian community, we are happy to help make this happen. We've been in contact, we've talked about the footing, we are willing to do the legwork to help the county with the needs that they have. So, thank you.
Thank you. I'm wondering, I don't know if Nick is on the line. I talked with him earlier. He said he was going to try to get in here. He had some other meetings. And if he's willing, I hate to put him on the spot, but if he was willing to possibly chime in. Nick Hanks. It was going to be a question mark if he could, but he was going to try. No? Okay. All right. Thank you. Looks like there's quite a bit of things to work through and look at as we go through a process of amending. And thanks for all those who participated. We'll now move to our second work session item. Is to consider a resolution adjusting the boundary between Utah County and Juab County for the interests of Santaquin City's growth and development.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Ben Reeves, Seneca City Manager. I appreciate you taking the time. I commend you on the efficiency of your meeting. I kind of figured I'd be here till 8 o'clock, being the last one on the agenda, and didn't even get a chance to eat my popcorn or anything. So we've met individually with commissioners, both from Utah County and Juab County. We've met with the county administration and staffs from both, working on this for an extended period of time, this concept and this idea with regard to a possible relocation of the Juab-Utah County line. And I'm not sure if this, oh, great. I had it as a PDF, so I'm glad that you're able to kind of convert it or whatever to PowerPoint. This is something that our community has been looking at for quite some time, and I'll try to be efficient with your time as well for a various number of reasons. The first is the growth that is hitting our community. Seneca City is a relatively small community. We like to be your least squeaky municipality to the south and causing you the least amount of grief. And with the growth wave that has come to Utah County, it has really hit our community hard of late. Historically, over the last couple of years, we've had a couple hundred homes per year. This past year, we had planned for 300, cut it in half with COVID down to 150, and actually had 430. And next year, we expect to have, we're planning for 500, but probably far in excess of 500. And with that rapid amount of growth, we see the transformation of our community from an agrarian to more of a suburban community. And we want to protect our agricultural roots. And we figure that the best way to do that is not through government mandates or through easements, farming easements, that type of thing. Our best way to keep our agricultural industry strong is through keeping our farmers economically viable. And the best way to do that is to shop local and to draw people in to buy the agriculture of our region. So there's two main issues that we're trying to combat here. Is one, how to continue to grow our community, because we know that growth is coming and it will continue to come, but do so in a way that protects the agricultural integrity of our area and our region, and two, to make our farms economically viable. And one of the key aspects of this is that we've been working with Utah State University for quite some time, trying to invite them to come to our community. So many of our youth are Aggies and go up, because we have a farming community, go up to Utah State to get their education. And Utah State sends a lot of their students down to our community for lab work and to do things in the tests and different growing things that they do in our orchards and in our farmland. And then third, we have some high-tech agricultural industries in our area that have a workforce that needs to be trained up. And so we see a great harmony and marriage between Seneca City and Utah State University, but there's some political elements that makes it difficult for Utah State University to grow in the Wasatch Front counties. And so having the Juab-Utah County line relocate somewhat really supports that. So I mentioned that one of the aspects that is facing our community is we have a portion of the Summit Ridge community that is about to be platted that's going to span the Utah County-Juab County line. Utah County-Juab County line is that red line. It sort of follows a ridge line, not really. Sort of is described. It doesn't follow property lines, and it's kind of vague in its description. And so we really appreciate the help of your county attorney, or county surveyor, and county attorney, Anthony Canto and Robert Moore, as we've been working through how to make this change possible. But you can see from the plat of the Hills at Summit Ridge subdivision, which is 472 units that will be coming in, that many of those homes are going to span the Utah County line and Juab County line. And they will receive tax notices from both. They're going to be having to pay to both. And this is something that Draper City experienced when because it spans the Salt Lake and Utah County line as well. And so we modeled everything that we're proposing after what you've already seen with the Utah County line and Salt Lake County line, based on what Draper did. We've hired the same engineers to do the survey work. We've used the exact same template so that it's very familiar to you. And maybe one of the things that to recognize from a growth standpoint is that this residential area that's at the tip of the Juab County line one of the concerns that we have is those kids, where do they go to school? Are they going to go to the Nebo School District or the Juab County School District? Are they going to, if there's an issue and they need to have some kind of prosecutorial issues, are they going to Utah County or Juab County? It makes sense to keep this neighborhood intact and whole. From an agritourism standpoint, a lot of
Can
people.
I ask you a question
Sure,
real quick
sure.
back on that back one?
Absolutely.
So it looks like there's about, what, 15 homes or so that
Before,
are,
I think, that would be
before?
coming in. Mhm.
that are right now currently slated to go on the Juab side.
On the Juab side.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. I actually checked that out this morning, counted them out. So as far as the agritourism, I'll go through this rather quickly. I had videos and whatnot, but it's not relevant. But basically Santa Cruz City, it was designated by the state of Utah and Governor Huntsman as the Utah Farming Heritage District in 2007. We do span both county lines. We have a toe into Juab County. Our region is the second largest tart cherry producer in the country, as far as the orchards in our region. And we're the first municipality in the state of Utah to reuse 100% of our sewer effluent in our pressurized irrigation system, which is state-of-the-art, fully metered, and state-of-the-art sewer treatment plant. So an ever-growing water resource. And a lot of people come, and I only brought that up because a lot of people come to our community to take a tour of the sewer treatment plant because it is so high-tech. We're the first in the state of Utah to have that. As far as agritourism concerns, well, we have 4 major key players, and that would be Rowley's Red Barn. They represent the orchard growers in our region, pace and fruit growers and such. We have Young Living Lavender Farms down in Mona that advertise all up and down I-15 to come to their venue there, all off exit 242, which is our exit. Howling's Tomatoes, which draws off byproducts from the power plant in Mona and grows fresh tomatoes and cucumbers year-round for the benefit of our residents. And then Olson's Greenhouse, which sells perennials and annuals to the entire Intermountain West. And so the nexus of this is, really, how do we make this work? Economic development through agritourism and workforce development. And so we brought the key players together, representatives from the Red Barn, Young Living, Olson's, Howling's. We also brought the landowners together, Ivory Homes, Summit Ridge Development, Salisbury. And we also invited Utah State University, representatives from Utah County and Juab County, and Nephi City, Mona as well, into a joint meeting that we held, and we are honored to have Lieutenant Governor Cox come and open that up for us, and we appreciate his support of rural Utah. And so we held that meeting and just came up with the brainstorming of what do we do with 242, exit 242, and that's our exit. I mentioned the Red Barn. There was a little video on that, but they're really working to try to bring people in through their hay rides and corn maze and and their not only their fruits and whatnot, but the pumpkin patches that they have. I mentioned Young Living. They have their venues and their events, their concerts, their rodeos, and all the different things that pull in. And we really look at this as regional because what's good for Utah County is good for Juab County in this entire region, and vice versa. Olson's Greenhouse started in Santa Quin. They have operations in Salem, Lehigh, also in Colorado and Arizona. And then Howling's Tomatoes, which is just a massive, massive growing facility that pulls the carbon dioxide and heat byproducts of that Rocky Mountain power plant in Mona. And so that's the concept that we have is what do we do with 242? And a big component of that is related to inviting Utah State University into our community. But another big component is that we're really looking to try to have an investment of economic development funds into our community. Often we are, because we are part of Utah County and part of the Wasatch Front, we don't receive some of the economic benefits that other communities would receive because we're part of the economic prosperity of Utah County. So we don't receive access to Community Impact Board funding, CIB. That's the mineral funding that is available to non-Wasatch Front counties. We don't have access to some of the economic development funding that's available to non-Wasatch Front counties. And yet, We also don't, we're a very small bedroom community that doesn't have a huge tax base, and so we don't have the benefit of having the big tax base that the rest of Utah County has. So we kind of have, we're in between, and we kind of have the worst of both. And we really see this as an opportunity to see some great things happen in our region that's going to benefit both and have a rising tide lifts all ships, if you will. Basically, our concept is that we want to keep local dollars local and invite other local dollars in through creating an experience. People agritourism is a growing industry across the nation. People want to know what's growing on and to see where their food comes from and to take part in that. In fact, on the Rollies on the north end of town recently had tours of their orchards, and they brought people in through through a trimming and through the blossoms and whatnot. Most of the people who came in actually came in from Salt Lake, didn't even come from our region. So that's great. But what does that mean? Well, we know that we're going to get the big boxes. We know that we're going to continue to get rooftops, and we know that we'll turn into a Spanish Fork. 15 years ago, 20 years ago, Spanish Fork was like what Santaquin is now, and Santaquin's going to turn into that, and we know that growth wave will come, and the economic benefit of that will come to Utah County as well. But we don't just want to get a steakhouse. We want to get a Maddox type of a steakhouse. We don't want to have just a big box. We want to have stores that are unique, that are mom and pop businesses that would really support our region. And I equate that to maybe some of the other facilities that have gone on. People, if you go to Hawaii, you go to the Dole Plantation. If you go to Pennsylvania, you go to Hershey. If you go to Oregon, you go to the Tillamook Cheese Factory or the Fruit Loop. And now, I think a good comparative locally would be if you go to southern Utah, you stop and get ice cream at Beaver, at the creamery, and the great things that they've done there, and drawing people in to stop from the freeway. And that's what we're missing. If you look at Nephi City is half of our size, and they have double the economic base that Santaquin has. So for every one Nephi resident, they have $4 compared to the $1 to a Santaquin resident. It's something to consider. And so coming full circle, we're really looking to resolve. We know this side has to be resolved as far as the development and trying to resolve it as far as the county line. But what we looked at trying to do is follow property lines in spirit of the Utah State Code, and then also to make there somewhat parity in the amount of acreage that would be coming from one county to another. So the orange area would be coming into Utah County, and the green area would be coming into to Juab County. But the real key aspect is being able to tie in and tap into the CIB funds and the GoEd funds to try to invite Utah State University to come into this area. You can see from the demographic or the overall Utah County parcel map that we have a lot of area to grow on the north. The benefit will come to Utah County, the economic benefit, but it's going to take a start, planting some seeds, if you will. And we think that the best way to start that is by inviting Utah State University to come into our community. And the best way to do that is to invite them into a non-Wasatch Front county. And that means basically it would be creating a non-taxable entity in the Juab County portion anyway. But that'll invite growth to happen on the north, which would be beneficial to Utah County. This is an aerial view of the area, the part that would be going into Juab County from Utah County. And on the very top part of that is the part that would be coming into Utah County, the darker blue lines that would be coming from Juab County. And our goal really is, and our end game really is to get Utah State to consider we can't use the word campus. I guess that's a bad word because of the competition from school to school. But we hope we can have a lifelong learning center with maybe 4 classrooms, a lab, and an extension office. That's what we're really looking at. Nothing major, but something that could really benefit the entire region. And so that's the reasons why we're here in a more formal capacity, looking towards the next steps, which really would be, if this is something that the commission would consider, both Utah County and Juab County commissions would need to pass a resolution allowing this to go forward. we would have set a public hearing. All of the costs would be borne by Santa Quin City as far as all of the advertisements, hosting the public hearing. We've already taken all the effort to go forward with the engineering and making sure that's compliant with the recommendations coming from your surveyor to make sure that follows. So that's really for your consideration and any questions you might have.
I have a few questions. So can you go back to the one that has the interchange in it? Freeway?
This one right here or the
No,
overhead?
I think it's, go back a little further. I saw one,
That one right there.
that one right there.
Okay.
So it looks like that, and this part that you say would be going into Utah State, that would be, or not Utah State, Juab County. That would still be in your city, right, in Santa Quin City?
Yeah, so the pink line in this entire configuration is the city limits right now. So there is a county island right there in the middle of Santa Quin City. There had been some issues in the past with Payson and Santa Quin stepping on each other's toes for annexations. We've taken a step back and we only annex if desired by the property owner and the farmer. But yes.
So again, I think to reiterate a little bit on the freeway interchange right there, or exit, that's always an economic benefit for wherever there are cities and areas that fight to the death almost.
Yep.
To have that land in their area. And so the question would be, why would we give up part of that being in Utah County? What would be the benefit for Utah County to do that?
So in the short term, right now you would be losing about $4,600 in property taxes and gaining about $6,000 in property taxes. So the net of a positive about $1,400 for the homes, the new homes that it would be platted versus the amount that you receive in that area. So that's a short term, but you're really asking a question over the long term. And our thought process on the long term is that with Utah State coming in, if this is something that we can entice them to do, it will create its own economic growth around the area, meaning that more growth will come to the northern side of that proposed blue line than would otherwise come, especially on a short-term to mid-term basis, meaning that we would see that the benefits to Utah County is that you'll receive more tax dollars more quickly than you would if this investment on the Juab County side or proposed Juab County side wouldn't take place.
Okay, because I know right now you have, Utah State's they're in Salem, right? Don't they have some facilities in Salem? I believe it's in Salem.
I don't know. I'm not familiar with what they. I know they have an extension office here in Provo, but I'm
Yeah.
not sure what they have in Salem. If
I think they
have
got an
anything at
extension
all.
office in Salem as well.
Maybe through the ALC or something.
Yeah. So you're banking on the Utah State's going to do something in that area. What happens if they don't?
Well, it's partly that, but partly to be able to tap into those other two revenue sources, the CIB funding and the GOED economic development funding.
Within your city, that's what you're looking at.
Yeah, so we can tap into funding that we couldn't otherwise tap into to spur economic development of this interchange because we don't have access to those two revenue sources today.
But you'd have to use those sources in that area.
In that green area.
Yeah.
And typically you would use those kind of sources for entities that are non-tax bearing. You know what I mean? If the city built a new facility or if the state came in or the Utah State came in, it would be a non-taxing entity as well.
Right.
We would be tapping into those to build facilities down there that we believe would drive the economic growth of the entire area more quickly. So you would see a rising tide lift all ships. Could there be economic development benefit to Juab County? Absolutely. But would there be more economic development benefit to the northern part? We believe so, because that has the greater geographic area. The topography of this is really everything east of the freeway is kind of hillside and not really economically driven. It's kind of a squished area between the railroad tracks and the freeway in the green area. Everything north of that kind of opens up and it really has the opportunity to bring a lot of economic benefit to both Utah County and Santa Quin City.
And so then you would think that, I mean, is that in your master plan? Are you planning for that into the future? And if this didn't happen, are you still planning for that into the future?
We just know it will come differently, that's all, and it would come later. But yes, we are currently going through two studies. So Utah State University students separately, the landscape architect department is coming in and planning this whole area for us under what's called a planning charrette. So they're doing some. They basically had their sophomores for a semester study the area and get all the demographics and topography and all that type of thing. And we had a full week where they shut down all classes for all grades, all teachers and key stakeholders all went to Logan, just throwing every idea up against the wall. And they created an hour-long worth of presentations from 7 different groups. I'd be happy to share that video. It's really interesting. And then their seniors are taking their best projects over this next semester and really fleshing them out into a solid plan. That is going on concurrently, but in a little bit in advance of our overall general plan update, which is taking place right now too. Similar to Heber City, which hired people in place, we have the same company doing a master plan for Santaquin City and updating that general plan, taking both into consideration because our community, quite frankly, is afraid of being overrun by growth. And we just want to make sure that the growth comes in such a way that really complements our community and doesn't overtake our community.
Okay.
So you're looking at the extension being in the green zone. About where would that be next to the exit 242?
So if I go back to this slide right here,
Right where that
that's where our
star
goal
is.
would be. That's the little Utah State star there.
And so you see growth coming to the north end of that ridgeway, that road on the northern end of the blue line there, the
So-
proposed north line.
Yeah, so there's something else maybe that the commission might want to consider as well. And it's going to be a little hard to describe this, but in the future, what we envision as part of our community is 2 different things. So maybe going back to this slide. In the area, just north of the blue line, in the pink that's right by the railroad tracks, that is a 35-acre parcel of property that the city owns that we've converted 8 of it into soccer fields. We purposely kept buildings out and kept it low impact because it is our intent and hope for the terminus of Front Rider to come into the Utah County side on that north end. So what we really see is a TOD and an entire planned area in that yellow area between the pink line and then going up into the white area in the future. So that's a big economic benefit, but a TOD really makes sense to have something to go see at the end of that as a destination. So agritourism and Utah State are both reasons to come to the end of the line. The second thing is we also, in addition to looking and comparing Santaquin to Spanish Fork, quite often we compare ourselves to Lehigh because they're probably the community that's more closely related to us in that 25 years ago, Lehigh was the same size as Santaquin. And 25 years ago, Eagle Mountain and Saratoga were the same size as Goshen and Genola. We know that their Main Street was such a bottleneck for years. Our Main Street's the only way around Utah Lake to the south like theirs was to the north. So we have plans for our own Pioneer Crossing someday, but we also have plans for a split of the freeway system right there that would come through and have a future interchange in this orange area that is currently Juab County. We envision that a freeway will split off, go through the Goshen Valley, catch Redwood Road, and go all the way up to the inland port and the airport. And that's in harmony with Utah County's overall 66,000 acre master plan for the west of Utah Lake that I know the church has 25,000 acres out there and all that plan. The real viability of this is recognizing we are the crossroads. And so a parallel freeway system to I-15 that is a direct route for truck traffic to get to the inland port and to the airport makes a lot of sense. And this is the split off. But at some point in the future, as soon as that splits, the first interchange will be right there in that orange area. So that's another economic benefit area, reason for Utah County to consider this, because while there's residential planned in the very tip of that, the majority of that land is actually currently either owned by Sitla or owned by Sunrock. And so mass grading out there is really starting that process of putting in that future freeway corridor. So there's another benefit too.
Yeah, that's an interesting, I think that one's fascinating, actually.
Yeah.
Can you go back to that aerial view one? I just wanted to ask you some questions, and I think that as I look at that, I'm not sure on that, and I know this is probably general, but you have the freeway going down, and then there's a road next, the frontage road next to the freeway.
Uh-huh.
Is that part of Utah County or Juab County?
That road right there is Old 91, and it is a Santaquin City road that used to be a UDOT facility. It is Santaquin City's all the way until the end of our property, of our city limits. Then it becomes Utah County for a short period of time, and then it becomes Juab counties. One of the things that I believe Anthony brought up was that there is a little island. If you look at the pink, at the bottom of the green area, where the pink ends and the green is overlapping, that it would make sense for us to annex that. So that our Utah County and Juab County both brought this up as an idea, that we would have our city limits match the county line as well. We're happy to do that. We just don't want to force it, and we want to talk to the property owners, make sure they're happy with it. But this right here would take a liability away, in that there is a tremendous amount of truck traffic on that property, or on that road that Utah County maintains, because of all of the rock that comes out of the Kilgore area. And I don't know how many times we've tried to patch it up and it splits apart and whatnot, but we definitely appreciate
So where does that go? Does that go into Santaquin City, or was that be in?
It would go
Juab
into
County?
Juab County, but it would also, ultimately, if we annex
yeah.
it down, it would go into Santaquin City.
Right here, right? That would go
Yes,
to
it's the
Juab.
very south end of that.
Your
So
border would go up.
we maintain where the pink line is, right
here.
there, to the interchange. Utah County maintains from the pink line down to the black line. Right now, it's a short enough span, but it seems to be a very costly one.
But if you turn this,
Yeah.
if you were to turn this over to Juab, your city line would go back up to here then, right?
No, our city line would stay where it is.
Would Juab County pick up that Utah County portion of the road?
Yes.
Interesting, okay.
Because then that means that Santaquin will still
There's a
be in two
positive for the
different
county.
counties.
I'm sorry.
I was gonna say that then Santaquin would still be in two different counties if that's the case.
Yes. We will always be in two counties. Yep.
If we're gonna have to deal with multiple counties, residents will have to, and you'll have to struggle with that, just like Draper does now.
Yes.
Could you change the city boundaries to match the county line?
Well, if we did, then we would have a whole bunch of, well, first of all, we'd lose the interchange. We'd lose the homes that are already platted out there and the property owners with their property rights. So it would be very complicated.
Yes, and I know I'm seeing that is why I asked the question, so.
Yep, no doubt.
Paul loves it.
We might have a lot of people upset with us who are vested and entitled and all that.
So that would you annex this area here then?
Likely so. That property is all owned by Sunrock, but actually that property that you just pointed to goes up. It's a long rectangle, and right now it's split by the county.
Right.
So I'm not sure who's taxing them as far as property taxes are concerned, because it's my understanding there's a gentleman's agreement that some of the properties are being taxed by Utah County and some are being taxed by Juab County today.
I'm sure they got that figured out.
This would clean all that up.
Yeah.
This is a good first discussion for me. I talked to Mayor many months ago about this possibility, but we didn't look at the details until now.
How does the Juab County commissioners, what are they telling you?
So they've been very supportive. I haven't met with the newest commissioner that just came on, and so that's the one last person I need to meet with yet. But the previous chair, Commissioner Woodland, came to the original meeting with all the key stakeholders and and Lieutenant Governor, and it's been involved all the way through. And then I met with the entire commission, their attorney, their surveyor, their economic development, and clerk in a meeting. And generally speaking, they're very, very, very supportive of it. There's two complaints that I heard, and one was it creates a little bit of an odd shape, and it was more of aesthetics more than anything. And the second was, can we take Eureka too?
Take what?
Can we take Eureka too? And that was the only other thing.
No. He's from me.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I don't see any from the public side. Thank you, Ben.
Okay, very good.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
All right, is there any general public comments? Okay, that will end our portion. We'll go into our closed meetings. Thank you.
I'll be back.